Hello everybody, this is Dr. Lucia. Welcome to EDCS 726. I'm sitting here comfortably in my office on a Friday evening, prepared to give you the first of several 15-minute segments on specifically the material related to the course that you are taking. It's an informal sort of evening. I'm wearing my Buford Eagles shirt. I taught at Buford High School from 82 to 85. You'll see me wear shirts from the various schools that I have taught in, just to kind of show the colors, you might say. It is football season, so I'm kind of excited about it. I like high school football an awful lot, and I'm sure many of you do too. And I would encourage you to send me the shirt from your school. If you have a cheap t-shirt and you would like me to represent for your school while I'm doing these little videos, then by all means send me one. You have my address. Just put something in the mail, and I will be most grateful and wear it and give a shout out to your school so that way the whole cohort can see, and you can give me any specific data about your school, like the win-loss record typically for your school, who the head coach is, and what your prospects are and how excited you are, and I'll give a shout out to your school and wear your shirt during the course of the next 8 weeks as I teach you. So by all means, if you want to do that, it's kind of fun. Show the colors, so to speak. This is the fall, and I'm all excited to be teaching you. I know some of you are noticing there's a tremendous amount of work in these classes, in the ones that I've set up. I've been in close touch with Susan Schrampade, who is the director of the program. She hired me, and we think an awful lot alike. She was my dissertation director, so a lot of the things you hear are echoes of what she told me when I was writing my dissertation back in 2004, and also what Jim Sears had to say as well. Jim Sears was a professor who had been there for 20 years, I think, before he finally retired. And Jim wrote a number of books, one of which I'm using in the 820 course. If you end up taking the 820 course with me, then you will not only have the same two books that you had before, you will also be asked to read this. This is Growing Up Gay in the South. So if you haven't had 820, the diversity courses are some things that are near and dear to my heart. I would urge you to get it and have it, and maybe read it over the Christmas break, and that way you'll be one book ahead when you get to take the class with me again. And then there are the other two books that you normally had for 820 as well. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up. Don't get rid of them. You need them. This year especially, because my courses, and I'm encouraging the other professors as well in this direction, are going to have final exams. I think you might have noticed that in the syllabi. They're open book, but they're not easy, and they are designed to make certain that you have read the material that I have assigned. You know that the book is pretty thick for our class. It's curriculum leadership, and I happen to like it an awful lot, and I get it all marked up. I had the earlier iteration of this ages ago. Always found it to be a very, very good source of, many times, just very basic ideas that just make sense. So, when it comes to collaborative management of the schools, getting teachers on the same page with you, getting them to follow you rather than digging in their heels and resisting as much as possible, and also engaging in the kind of leadership that people actually want to follow and are grateful for rather than viewing it as another imposition, another mandate. This book, I think, gives a lot of good ideas, particularly if you are an administrator or are thinking of being an administrator, would like to be one maybe, or mid-career, most of you are, and your aspiration is maybe assistant principal for curriculum and instruction, or whatever it is that you'd like to do. Some of you are, as I said, functioning as assistant principals. I think I have one or two principals as well. Some of you are district office staff, some of you are university staff, but most of you are in-classroom teachers, which makes action research particularly a good thing for you to do. You always see me drinking something. I've got water in this case, just cold water. I was wanting to go to the gym. I may be interrupted by the HVAC repairman. They got to come back and do something here on the system that I have here in my condo because there's a leak. And so what I'm doing is this right now. I was going to go out and go to the gym. I don't know that I'm going to be able to tonight. I just might have to do that tomorrow morning. Education Dissertation, Boutin's book, right? This is the other book. So there are two books, plus whatever I post. And there are other things I'd like to involve you and the other class in as well. Scholarly activities. Like, for instance, how the Confederate flag is being handled in your school. That controversy, you notice that there are some schools that are now banning it, and how students are asked to talk to one another about it. I think that's particularly important. I did some research on that, and there are two articles that I co-wrote with Susan Schrampade that go through my experience dealing with that in a small upstate school, about 125 really rural Milltown kids when I used to teach in the upstate. And you might find that interesting. School's not identified, but many of you do teach in the upstate. You can probably relate to my experiences. I love that little school, but I wasn't blind to its problems, and I think we did do some good work, in getting kids to understand one of those points of view. So this concept of dialoguing across the differences and social contact theory, that stuff has an awful lot of bearing on what's going on in South Carolina now. And as I told you before in previous videos and other classes, I'm kind of heartened by the way we handled the tragedy that was awful that happened this summer. It's just incredible, unbelievable. And also the need for dealing with young people, identifying those who potentially have problems in that direction, who might act out in ways that poor young man, I don't say that poor young man, that young man did, who has in effect ruined his life, absolutely ruined his life. I mean, he'll never be out of prison ever again, assuming he's not given the death penalty. Because you know that in spite of the fact that some of the victims' families have forgiven him, the state of South Carolina is not as forgiving. And quite frankly, there's a legitimate discussion both ways as to whether or not it should be. All right, because you can have whatever opinion you want about the death penalty, and you should argue and discuss with one another all these different things. And when it comes to the kids, let them talk, etc. So I want to know what you're doing. And you get permission to take little videos and send them to me so I can do some ethnography. I like ethnographic research. And then we can write it up and I give you some credit for it too. We include you in on the credits for what we do since it's going on in your schools, and give you avenues for research and co-writing and getting some credit for working with a professor to submit material to a learned journal and, in effect, show your school district that you are an action researcher, that you get things done, and that your program helps you deal with the issues that you encounter in your school, and that you are a change agent, and that actually helps you. It really, really does. I mean, you're the kind of person who wants to move up, and you want to move up not just for your own self, but because you want to contribute something to the company, so to speak. And I'm going to have a very good friend of mine who works in a fairly large company in West Columbia that has branches everywhere all across the country, who is in HR and is involved in training and in relationships between managers and supervisors in his company and getting things done effectively. He teaches as well, but within a corporate setting, and is currently at the Darla Moore Be Still My Heart School of Business doing his PMBA. I really love and respect that school. And I'd like for you in this class to make some connections with, even if it's only intellectually, with the thinking of business. All right, because even though the academic enterprise, within a public setting, this is not a profit center. Instead of profits, we produce test scores. We produce results with kids, and that's our bottom line: being effective with kids and producing results for them, preparing them for college and/or the world of work. Let's face it, that's what we're doing. And helping them deal with social problems and giving the parents value for their tax dollars. So how do we do that? That's a management issue. And many of the insights of corporate management can easily be transferred to the public sector, to our sector, and vice versa. We both have things to teach one another. So I think you will see eventually a symbiosis between the College of Education and the School of Business on certain levels and in certain courses, where both can inform one another and help one another as well. Some of you may even have business degrees, and you know what I'm talking about. You've taken org theory, among other things. So this leadership class is sort of like that. How do we lead people? That's the fundamental question. Now, I could spend all of my time talking about your dissertation proposal, but I'm not, because I want to talk about this, and then I want to get back to that question: how do we lead people? So this is going to run several segments. I'm already into the 9th minute. When I get close to the 15th, I will pause it, put it up on the side there, and start again. So this should be about 3 segments, maybe 4, we shall see. All right, so I'm here talking to you. I will do about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half of videos every week, because I'm going to react to your posts. Your posts are going to tell me what to say. Your posts and your written work, that's what I'm going to react to. If you see me looking in the corner, I'm looking at notifications that I get. Some of them are from some of y'all. You send me an email, and so I'm looking up at the corner there, and I'm seeing that gives me a heads up as to what's going on. Now, you probably have noticed I have office hours now, but they are by appointment only, and there's certain things I want you to do in order to get ready for office hours, all right? Because I have to drive from Forest Acres to Columbia to USC. That's only 6 miles, but if any of you are familiar with Forest Drive, which becomes Taylor, and then into downtown, particularly, at certain times of the day, what could be in empty streets a 10-minute drive at the speed limit becomes a half an hour or more. So I want to make certain that when I go into town, because I don't have to, I do my work basically right here in this office, right here looking at my Macintosh and on my iPhone. I want to make certain it's worthwhile. So read my announcements. My announcements specify the circumstances under which I want us to do office hours if you care to do them. Okay? Because it's not just because of the situation where we're all spread out. I want time used productively. I have to go in, I'd say about once every 2 weeks for a meeting of some kind, where it's command performance, where the whole department shows up for whatever, or Susan wants us all together. Then that's an ideal time, and I'll let you know. And never before 2 p.m. And please don't call me before 2 p.m. I stay up very, very late in order to do. I'm a night owl. I'm sometimes in bed by 4 or 5 in the morning just working on this stuff. All right, I'm doing it early tonight. This is 7 o'clock because I'm waiting on a repairman. Otherwise, I'd be out on the road and then visiting relatives and dealing with other issues, and then getting to this much later. But I'm earlier today, and sometimes, as I said, I like to do it before I go to the gym because I'm pumped up and I want to go. So, your syllabus can be downloaded. You should put a hard copy in a notebook. You know that we basically meet on Blackboard and right here, and there is a link for mashups for YouTube. Right into course documents. You just go into course docs and you will see everything that I put. I'm just putting everything in one place. All in one place for your convenience. You have 2 books to buy. They're not expensive, but they are to read. Now, if you already have this one, yes, very good. All right, very, very good. The Booten book is, as far as dissertation writing, you can consider it biblical. It's that important. It's a very, very good book. And it summarizes a lot of the things I need to have you know. Now, occasionally he violates some of my little rules, like no split infinitives, no dangling elements, like, for instance, prepositions at the end of sentences that just kind of show up right there, then a period, or any other kinds of grammatical and stylistic errors, or comma faults, punctuation, etc., and so forth. I'm a bit more of a stickler about those things than on mechanics, spelling, style, diction, and grammar than most people are, because I used to teach English and I used to do close reading with students of what they wrote, so have them sitting next to me. So if you come to my office for work on your disprop, just so long as you've done everything I have asked you to do in red at the end, then you could schedule an appointment, bring the thing with you, and we can go through it. And at the same time, I will note new things. I'll point out, oh, look at this, oh, look at that. Because I did not correct elements of style in any detail whatsoever when I went through your disprops before. I read them through, all right, because I had like about 64 to do within just a few days when they all came in. I turned grades around, so I went looking for certain things. Now, what I want to do is go through them in even more detail with you, and notice, line by line, things that you can do to gussy up the style, make it sound better, and also make certain it's in proper APA format, because when certain things just stick out, as you may have noticed, well, you didn't notice it yet because you haven't done positionalities for me. You're in 726. The 726 group is in 820 this year, beginning this fall. And I went through their positionalities with a red marker, with a red pen on Word, and then I sent them back. So I'm going to do this. That's the one paper I'm going to do that for you. So that way you can see some of the mistakes you typically make, like split infinitives or fragments, or things in style that you just should not say. For instance, I had one student, bless his heart, in the other cohort, who made some blanket statements about his students, and I said, look, it could very well be that your students are lazy. All right. However, that's not the way we phrase it in a dissertation proposal. All right. What we do instead is we say, instead of saying things like that, what we say instead is that there are issues of motivation that need to be addressed by this research study, and this is how you're going to do it. So students are not lazy. They're maybe lacking in motivation, and what are the circumstances that would lead to that lack of motivation? We need to avoid judgmental tones when we write. We need to avoid editorializing. We need to avoid opinions. We need to avoid all that stuff. Right? It has to be serious, dispassionate social science writing, even if it is a qualitative design with a lot of you in it. And you have to disappear as quickly as possible all over the place. You need to be third-person omniscient. when you write rather than first person singular. Third person singular omniscient. All right? Kind of like the deity. All right, now, textbooks, you got those, goals and objectives. I don't need to read that to you. I did put in red, read all announcements before sending me email with questions relative to the administration of this course or the content of your assignments. Please read things through. Posts. Posts don't need to be as long as last time, but they do need to be thorough, and they need to convince me that you've read the material. So do those things, because you're going to get a test on them. Wait till you see the questions. They don't follow chapter by chapter. They're all mixed up, and they're conceptual, in order to hide where they came from. Now, you'll know some of them. For instance, when you read the article in the G quotient, you won't forget that one. The G quotient, we know which article that is. I don't need to even mention the author. Right? But the G quotient article is a good one that I really stress in here. And so there are a few questions on that on the test. Right to the article for that. But the other things are kind of spread around. And where I ask for the name of something, I express the concept, and I say, give you a series of choices, and I say, what is it? Match it with what it is. But by and large, the questions are on the upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. I want you to pick the best answer, evaluate the situation in light of your knowledge having read. And if you've read and marked the book, read, mark, and inwardly learn. That's one of my mottos. Some of you might know where that comes from, too. If you do, tell the class where read, mark, and inwardly learn comes from. Mark your book up. That's the best way to prepare for the final exam, and you will have a window in which to do it, 72 hours, the last hour of which will be the actual final exam when they give me the date for the first half. They haven't given me that date yet. So I'll give you a 72-hour window to take it. It will be timed. You only get one shot, so you got to make certain that you are sitting and the technology is working. And I see that it is now 16:49, 16:51, so I'm just pause it here because I need to upload this to YouTube, and the longer ones sometimes don't upload very well. I think you know what I'm talking about. So let me pick this up on the rebound.